Hello, and welcome to Real Person Reviews. I'm Sam, and I'm a real person. And today I want to talk to you about The Legend of Zelda: Four Swords. Um, this is basically like a multiplayer Zelda game. Um, but the thing is, this is really just a bonus game that is an extra that is on the Game Boy Advance port of A Link to the Past. Um, and in order to play that, you have to have either two or four players have to each have their own system, their own copy of the game, and you need to link it together with the Game Boy Advance link cable. And there's some stuff that has some kind of connectivity between your main Link to the Past game and the Four Swords game as well. Um, so that's how you would normally play that. But this one here is on the where you're seeing the footage and everything. I played this with my friend, so a two-player game on Nintendo Switch. If you have Nintendo Switch Online with the expansion pack premium subscription, you have access to Game Boy Advance games and you can play it that way. So that's how I played it. That's how the experience I'm basing this off of. And with that in mind, I guess let's just get right to it. So I'm not gonna go too crazy about the plot or the details of the lore of Four Swords. They probably bring it up in this intro thing you're watching right now in the beginning anyway. But the main idea is that you go and find the Four Sword and you take it out of the thing, and then it breaks the seal, and this evil Vati wind sorcerer thing comes up and kidnaps Princess Zelda, flies away, and so you split up into multiple links, and then you have to go through these trials to get these keys to unlock the doors to Vati's palace to get in and save Zelda. That's basically what you're doing. That is the premise. And as far as the gameplay is concerned, a lot of it is pretty basic stuff already that you're probably familiar with in Zelda games. There's a beginning area that will teach you a lot of these basics, like you can use your sword to slash, to do the spin slash. You can pick things up and throw them. You also have a slot for one item, like a shield or bombs or a bow. There's also a couple of interesting things that aren't real typical. There's like a magnet you can use with different polarities for pushing and pulling, other objects or yourself around. And there's something called the Nat Hat, which will make you shrink down in size, kind of like the Minish Cap for the later game Minish Cap, but that wasn't out yet. They actually the team that was working on Minish Cap is the one that worked on this. That's why the stuff in Four Swords looks like Minish Cap. They paused the development to make this little extra thing for this Game Boy Advance port. So the fun fact, a little bit of whatever timelines and stuff, interesting, I guess. So this early area where you're learning all these different basics of how to play, learning that stuff. You can learn about all the different items and how different ways you can use them for combat, for puzzles, and for exploration. All the things you would really want to do in a Zelda game. They kind of show you the basics of how that's going to work. They also try to teach you some of the ideas of the way levels will work in this game as well. So like there are these things you can find, these little like shells. They're red, blue, and yellow, which are for attack, defense, and speed, respectively. And you can have up to two of those on your character. You have a little like map/subscreen thing you can pull up and look at there. Also, if you're finding every once in a while you find these rupee shards. There's huge things or whatever. If you find 5 rupee shards, 4 rupee shards, it's 4. You get a bonus of 500 rupees for doing that. And they also teach you that some of the premise here is the idea that you want to be getting a lot of rupees because if you die, it spends rupees. If you get full health, it triggers this rupee rush thing or whatever. And so then if you're getting extra health once you're already at full health, you can be picking up a bunch more. There's multiplied. Everything is multiplied or whatever. It's like double rupees when you're picking stuff up. And also depending on how fast you finish a stage. You can get a bonus multiplier for that, and also basically a bonus amount of rupees, and also you get a multiplier based on how many players you have as well. The idea is to get as many rupees as you can to impress these rupee fairies or whatever the fuck, and they'll kind of teach you that's the basic thing of what you're doing. So once you're out of there, once you start, that's optional. You don't have to do the tutorial part. But then they have the proper game, which is made up basically of 4 areas. 3 main areas you have to play through first, and then to unlock Vati's Palace at the end. In each of these areas, every area is made up of essentially when you go through 3 three levels or three stages of it. So there'll be a stage 1, stage 2, and then a boss stage. And at the end of stage 1 and 2, there'll be a heart container to grab. So whoever gets the heart container gets that extra heart added to their life. And like I said, there are elements of, basically it's trying to have elements of like competition and also cooperation. So you're kind of competing in that you want to be the first to the end to get that extra heart container, or you might want to be like getting the most rupees at the end, because then they'll have a little like, comparison. Whoever gets the most rupees gets this like hero medal thing as a prize to show that off. But you also have to cooperate with one another to finish levels quickly to get more rupees as bonuses. Basically, once you beat the an entire area, both stages and the boss, at the end of that, if you have enough rupees, you will be rewarded with keys. And then you go ahead to the other one. So once you get all those keys, you can go to the final palace and do that, and then just go through and be the boss, and that's the game. That's it. There's not a whole lot more to say about that, and you kind of just get, judged on your ability to do that. That is mainly the game. And it's actually really fun. I think there's a lot of really good ideas here, a lot of cool things here. Because, already it's fun to play with friends, alright? That makes sense, right? You're playing with your friends, that's cool. And I think that the balance of competition and cooperation is actually pretty interesting, because as much as you want to like go through here quickly and do well and get more rupees, you want to still kind of steal rupees from someone else, or like grab the heart container, or like get all the stuff, whatever. You want to be the one that does all the stuff. The thing is, like, in order to get through the levels, you have to work together for some things, like multiple people picking up boulders, or stepping on switches, or doing these other things, right? You need to work together, or fighting enemies and bosses and things. You need to work with one another to actually tackle those bosses. So certain, like, puzzles and encounters and things do require cooperation. And, I think that, like, also, if anything, that's probably one of those things, I guess, like, it almost seems like it's more geared towards cooperation if you want to, do the best that you can do. But it's also fun to just mess around, whatever, and, dick around with your friends as well. And there's just a lot of really cool ways of, interesting things. Like, there's areas where, one person can, like, see someone else's thing, so you have to be like, hey, I see your thing over here, like your colored thing is over here. It's like color coded. It's like, oh, your thing is over here, and like you have to tell it to each other so they can coordinate what you're doing with one another. That's kind of like a cool way to get people like invested. And so like you have to be like, you should do this thing, you go do this thing, I'm gonna go over here and do this, right? And you have to actually work together in ways to like solve those puzzles as well. And like it's a cool like dynamic of that. Lots of interesting things of like, they definitely showed a lot of promise of a lot of different things you can do with these different items, and the ability to work together with these items. Like, oh, like if I have this item, you have this item, you can do this and I can do this thing, and this is how, we have a lot more ability to like tackle situations with 2 people, or 4 people especially. And that's probably the biggest strength this game has, is that it has a lot of really good foundations for something to be really awesome here. But it is unfortunately kind of marred by the fact that, like, well, okay, so one of the things is the idea of, like, basically if you want to see all of the unique content in here, it's a little bit tricky. Not only do you have the barrier of entry to, getting everybody with all the right, games and hardware, software, whatever, and the time and the ability to play, and the interest, of course, you also have this added thing of, like, well, basically every area has every area consists of, like I said, you'll play 2 stages and then a boss stage, but there are a total of 3 stages you could potentially see. So basically every time you play, you may get a different stage in there the next time you play it, but also I don't think there's any guarantee on that. So like you just don't get to see all of it the first time around. But also, there's the thing, if you want to see everything, you have to play it multiple times over, because the first time you beat these stages, if you have at least 100, or these areas, if you have at least 100 rupees by the end, you get the silver keys. Then you beat the campaign, you come back around again, and after you do that, play a second time. If you beat these areas with 3,000 rupees at the end, you'll get gold keys, which unlocks more stuff to fight in the palace at the end. and then do it again and have 5,000 rupees to get these hero keys in all the areas. And if you do that, then you get the ultimate, you get more bosses and everything at the very end of the palace thing, the longest, hardest thing you can do. And that's kind of the extent of what you're doing there. But you have to play the game essentially 3 times through to get that, at minimum. That's if you end up getting those keys the first time that you go around. You might not get enough rupees when you do it. You might not be going fast enough. You might need to actually work together more, play it harder. And the ask is just very big here. And what I would recommend is that if they wanted to do this, they probably should have done a thing of like, they probably should have made it so that you actually play all 3 of these like stages, and then also then the boss, and just did that for all of these. And then maybe, I don't know, just giving you all of the everything right away. The idea that you're going to get this group of people with all of these things and play this multiple times and be dedicated enough to really make sure they're getting all the rupees, doing really good with a rupee rush, doing all that stuff. It doesn't seem very likely that anybody's going to actually see all 100% of this game. And that's a shame, because it is, like I say, it's fun, it's promising, it's got a lot of good stuff here. Another issue I do have with it too is the idea that it feels like a good start that they didn't capitalize on. There was a lot of really cool things that were really exciting to see, like, here's things you could possibly do in the tutorial section. And then when you play through it, depending on the stages you get, especially just picked for you, who knows, right? Like, some of the stuff it feels like you never even really use. I feel like when we played through, I don't know that we used a magnet, like, to kill, like, 2 enemies or something. Barely ever got it to do anything. Never needed it for a puzzle or exploration or anything. It was ridiculous. Also, the bosses don't give you the best feedback for when you're hurting them and defeating them and stuff. It's kind of awkward. I don't know. That's not much. I mean, I don't think it's a huge issue. You can kind of figure it out, like, I'm probably hurting it, but they could make it a little more obvious when you're doing that. I don't think they did a good job of really, like, signposting that. Maybe that could be done a little bit better. So, yeah, even for what it is, if you get your foot in the door with all of the prerequisites, it's already just kind of like, I feel like they kind of dropped the ball a bit here. It's a big ask to do a lot of these things. It's either too short, a little short for, like, to feel like you're doing a lot of stuff. It doesn't feel like it warrants multiple sessions, but because of the length that it is, it might warrant multiple sessions. But it doesn't feel like it's going to be worth playing through the same levels, probably, at best 2 times. And that's if you don't get repeats as much, right? When you're playing through the game 3 times in a row. I don't know. Like, it seems like a lot of repetition and stuff on top of this. It just seems like they maybe were a little too ambitious with what they thought people were actually going to do with these games. But maybe that's just me. I don't know. Maybe people did do it, but I don't feel like that's the case based on what I've heard and seen just passively. So maybe somebody did, but not many people did that. Okay, so for the recommendation stuff and the summing this up and everything, I mean, I don't know. This is kind of a weird one because it's not like Four Swords is a bad game. It's still fun. It's just that, again, the barrier to entry is kind of high. Having enough people to play and all the hardware and software and all this other stuff, if you have the prerequisites already, then yeah, I think that's like, why not check it out, right? You have the games and the friends and whatever and the time, then check it out. I don't think it's worth 100%ing it, as we did not do that. Spoiler, we're like, well, that sounds dumb. That sounds like a pain in the ass. I don't think we're even going to be able to do it. It'll just be not fun to do, all that. So giving it like a once through is probably good enough for most people, I think, as a passive thing. And again, it's like an extra thing with A Link to the Past, so it's not like you're gonna, it's not like you're gonna get this usually for Four Swords, I guess, right? It's not really the thing. If you already have the subscription here, I guess, you could play A Link to the Past, the Super Nintendo version. But, like, I guess, as far as linking stuff also, I mean, like, I haven't checked out all the things yet, but basically, for the actual Four Swords part of it, if you get the Master Sword, you get to shoot sword beams when you have full health, I guess, in here. There's that. But there's not a whole lot of connectivity between the 2 games anyways, so it's a neat idea. It's a neat start. I think that, and also, again, like, there are other things out there. Like, there's the anniversary edition, basically, but there's no way to really get that anymore. It was a limited time thing when you could get it in those windows for certain people. So you can't really say that, you can't really hold those up anymore. So you pretty much have this or the Game Boy Advance one. And I can't recommend you getting, going out and trying to get this to experience this, is what I'm saying. It's not worth going through the hoops to try and get this. But if you already had the ability to play it, then you might as well check it out. That's basically what I'm getting at. And I kind of hope that they actually make, another multiplayer Zelda at this point, because again, right now, this is kind of what we're stuck with. We don't have Four Swords Adventures unless that's coming to Nintendo Switch 2's GameCube Online. That would be kind of cool. It's not really easy to play that anymore either. And I guess Triforce Heroes, well, 3DS is kind of, not in support anymore, so you could probably get a copy, but just the ability to play multiplayer Zelda, I think there's still potential there to do interesting stuff. I don't know. Maybe you have to find another way to do it. Or just release the anniversary edition and give us the ability to play like that, or like a new edition of like Four Swords or whatever, and like make it so it's easier for us to play by ourselves that way. Make a collection of multiplayer Zelda games. I don't know. What do you think they should do? And what is your favorite multiplayer Zelda game? Tell me that stuff in the comments. That could be fun to talk about. But I'm glad I finally played this. Thanks, Pferff, for letting me, drag you through this. And for recording some of that as well. I don't know how much of that recording is going to making it into the video. If we're going to show the tutorial parts, or if we're going to show the actual level parts. Who knows? You, because you just watched it, I guess. But me, before I've edited the video, I have no idea. And also, if you're still here, guys, I just want you to appreciate the level of dedication that I have. It is hot in here. I do not have the air on. And I'm wearing these layers. Stupidly, I'm like, I'm going to wear the Zelda shirt that you can't even freaking see from where you're sitting, right? Like, standing from where you're being a camera. I have a Zelda shirt. And I was like, oh yeah, look at that. Yeah. You can't even see it because I'm a dipshit. I'm also like, I'm going to put up these Mountain Dew things. And have, oh yeah, like a regular Mountain Dew. I'm going to have a Code Red. And it'll be like the green and red links. And I had to stand in front of it the whole time because what we're going to do is stand way on the edge. Hey guys, I'm just peeking in on my own video. I was just passing by and I happened to hear you guys were talking about Four Swords. Like, I don't know. Dedication. It doesn't pay off, but I do it anyway. So I'll see you guys in the next video, whatever the fuck that's going to be. I'd say maybe this, but whenever I do that, it seems like I end up doing something completely different anyways. So there'll be one, and you'll see it.